and welcome to School of Addiction. Tonight's topic is addiction recovery doesn't happen by accident, and it's how to plan step by step on how to recover from addiction and make it sustainable. For those who are new to the channel, my name's Ashley Bloxham. I am a therapist. I specialise in childhood and trauma, but I also am an addictions counsellor and I've overcame addiction. I've studied it right the way up to PhD level, and I also know what it's like to have a loved one who struggles in addiction. Hi, peace and joy. How you doing? Nice to see you again. So tonight's topic, and thanks for the likes. Tonight's topic is addiction recovery doesn't happen by accident. Yes, it can. We can accidentally get into it. But if you're someone sat there thinking, right, I need to get away from addiction, or maybe you're in the early stages and you need to continue it, you need to plan for it. And the way that you plan for it is by accepting that, okay, this is where I am. This is where I am in life. But this is not where I need to be. So having that positivity and having a plan to drive you out of it into the direction that you want to be, toward the person you want to be, with the life you want to have, is so doable. But I think sometimes we just think, okay, I don't want to be addicted to whatever it is and that's it, and maybe we pull the thing away out of our lives, but we don't strategize for it. And it is a strategy. It's a strategy of, okay, every single day I'm going to do something that's in alignment with my recovery. So how do we plan for this? First of all, it's really helpful to sit there and think, what do I want my life to look like? Because it's not just about, okay, I don't want to be addicted to whatever it is. It's a whole life revamp. Like, we're removing something that occupies a lot of our time, that is running the show. So when we've got our addict brain in full gear, all we're thinking about is the thing. So for me, it was ketamine. Just how can I get ketamine? Who can I take ketamine with? What am I going to be able to do that's going to allow us to do that? So it's a whole life revamp, and we've got to think about, okay, what would my life look like if I wasn't in addiction? And I want you to think about it from every level. What would you be doing with your spare time? What would the things in your life which are here now, what would make it to that life? What would be in alignment with that, and what kind of needs to go? What are the things which are keeping us stuck in this life? And just start to think, okay, that's my North Star. That's what I want it to look like. But what step can I do starting now to get us toward there? And the thing is, it doesn't even need to be stopping the addiction. It doesn't even need to be removing the thing yet. It is about getting yourself toward the life that you want. And along the way, that is going to be getting rid of the addiction. Maybe it's just about getting control of the addiction now. Or maybe it's about learning to love yourself enough so when you remove it, it doesn't feel as painful. Or learning to regulate your emotions. Making little healthy habits day in, day out, which are in alignment with the life that you're going to have when you're not an addict. So yeah, let's see what people are saying. I'm going to keep going back to that and little strategies that we can do. Peace and Joy says, likewise, not nice to see you. Happy New Year. I'm doing okay, thank you. How are you? Happy New Year to you too, and everybody else. Hi Tico, how you doing? Can you please be my babe? No, I've got my own little boyfriend. I've got my own babe. He's lovely. He's a little babe. Get some friends, lady, Patrick saying. Yeah, friends are super important. I know that you're digging us out, but friends are so important, and we can have the right kind of friends which are going to help us in addiction recovery, or we can have the wrong kind of friends. A lot of my friends that I had became my friends because they were the people that took ketamine. They also like to take ketamine. So it's really important to take stock of, like, are these friends I've got in my life helpful? A lot of the time when we're struggling in addiction, a lot of our friends are also struggling in addiction. So yeah, it's good to look at your friends. I would say that should be on the list of things to tackle, taking stock of your friends. It's Tico. If you need one-to-one personal support, please reach out to Ashley at schoolofaddiction.co.uk. Yes, please do. Capler, Mr. Capler is saying you have a British accent. I do, and that is because, believe it or not, I am British. Beneficial. What addictions are you beating? I've already beat it. Done. But I had an addiction to ketamine. It was really bad, to the point where I was like wrecking my bladder and severely wrecking my life. But I've overcame it. I'm nearly 4 years sober. So in February the 3rd. Not that I know my date off by heart or anything. So yeah. Yeah, so thinking about, okay, so what is my life going to look like? First of all, when the life that's great, this life where we're not an addict and we're thriving, because that's what we're aiming for, thriving. At the moment, we're just surviving and getting by, and the addiction is the thing that's getting us through the day. A thriving life, what that looks like is somebody who like loves themselves. You don't see anybody who's thriving who doesn't have a good relationship with themselves. So it's really important that we don't just think about the external, so what are the things we're going to be doing, but also the internal. And that's looking at how do you talk to yourself? Because a lot of the time, if we're struggling in addiction, we're putting ourselves down, we're shaming ourselves, we're talking to us like crap. And I bet you wouldn't dare talk to somebody the way that you talk to yourself. So if you are one of those people and you're like what I was like, where you talk to yourself like rubbish, you're putting yourself down, start there. That does not align with a life where you're thriving. So start to think about, okay, whenever you say something to yourself, would I say this to somebody who I care about? And if that is something you'd say you care about, then I would say like work on your personality as well. Because the stuff I was saying to myself, I wouldn't dream of saying to somebody else. So take it off the list. Not allowed, because it does not align with this life where you're thriving. And that's what we're aiming for. It's not just about removing the addiction. It's about getting to a point where you're like, actually, I'm so fucking glad I quit that thing. It was really hard, but look at where I am now. And that starts today, doing things in alignment with that. Right, let's see. Leon, why did you start ketamine? I started taking it, so I moved to Ibiza when I was 19, and I did a few summers in Ibiza, and it was just, I just took loads of recreational drugs. I just loved it. I didn't get a ketamine problem until I started getting PTSD. So I found that I could talk. So I basically did my counselling training, and I was talking about a lot of things like trauma and stuff like that, because as a counsellor you have to work on yourself, and it was really triggering, and I ended up getting like full on PTSD, and the only time I felt safe to talk about it was on ketamine. So it kind of started coming into my everyday life. But equally, I had already started using it a bit more because I had a bit of a coke issue, and I switched it up for ket, which is really common in addiction. Often we have one addiction and then we stop it and we replace it for another. So it was a couple of things. But yeah, I think like most things, I just did it for fun. Most addictions start off innocent and for fun. I didn't think I was going to have an addiction, and then it just escalated. Twister driver, I don't drink, don't smoke, 60 minutes sports a day, feels good. Yeah, honestly, if you can do, if we're thinking about that life where we're thriving, which is what we're aiming towards, you know, we don't wake up tomorrow thriving if we're not, but we're aiming towards thriving. I would say if you can do sport, if you're able, that is going to be a huge game changer. And if you already do sport, brilliant, you've got something to lean into and ramp it up a notch. Like think, okay, I already do this, let's like lean into it. So there's somebody who comes on my channel who's already said on a live, so I'm sure they won't mind us repeating it, that they started off like they were already running and they were doing a lot of running, but they were a functioning addict, and what they did is when they removed it, they really went in heavy with the running, and they've got their own Strava app and they're thriving. So yeah, lean into something if you're already doing sport. If not, try and pick up sport. I do jiu-jitsu, it's amazing. If you're comfortable, feel free to share a bit about your experience in the chat. You're not alone here. Yeah, please do. I find it's really motivating when people are talking about their things, because I think part of the thing with being stuck in addiction is you just kind of feel a bit alone and a bit like, oh God, for me, I couldn't think outside of myself and my situation, and it was horrendous. And I think it's really helpful to hear other people's stories. Yeah, Tico's saying everyone's recovery journey looks different. All experiences are welcome. It really does. I think every person's recovery journey looks different. But one thing I will say is people who get to a point where I think you can be recovering, or you can get to a point where you feel recovered, like you think like, actually my life's so solid now, like it's going to take my whole life being ripped apart the seams to go back there. And I think one thing that's common in that, although the journey to that point is different, is they've started to get a better relationship with themselves, and they've started to think about their life from every angle, which is like the quality of the relationships. Are they being boundaried? Is this stuff which aren't helpful in our behaviours? For instance, are we people pleasers? That is a huge thing that I see with people who struggle in addiction. Quite a lot of us are people pleasers. Just working out different things like that. And it's all about just little bit by little bit changing everything that is not helpful in your life. Thank you, Pedro. Welly says, I say this. Class, what do you say? Let us know. Vincent, addiction is a choice. Just stop the madness. I would say I'm always dubious about this is a choice, because I think, like, as somebody who was full blown in the madness, I really wanted to stop it. I think it is a choice, but what's more helpful is to think about it as lots of little choices. Lots of little choices to pick yourself back up if you relapse. A lot of little choices to say, okay, what isn't working for us right now? Okay, I'm going to do that one little, like, stack habits on top of each other. I'm going to create healthy habits which are all in alignment with recovery and then eventually being recovered. So it is a choice, but it's not as simple as a choice. And I don't want somebody sat there thinking, well, I'm not choosing to do this because I'd give anything to not be living this life. But it's about working out, okay, what little decisions can I make which is going to be in alignment to my recovery and getting recovered. And yeah, it is about, like, what can I do to stop the madness? Why is there madness in my life in the first place? That's a good place. If you want to move forward, it's good to look back. Why am I where I am? What's led us to this point? Twister Driver saying, do you drink alcohol sometimes? I've been on a weird journey with alcohol recently. So I stopped drinking for nearly about a year. That was just purely for my mental health, because I've got bipolar. I was banging at my fitness, and then I started drinking socially again. I've never had an addiction to alcohol. I've just not had the best relationship with it. Then in August, I decided I'm going to stop drinking, and I've been toying with the idea of, do I go teetotal, like absolutely abstinent or not? And it's been a little bit of a back and forth, and I've had about 4 drinks since August, maybe 5. And every single time I've thought about it and I thought, no, it's not adding to my life. So yeah, I've just made the decision to go teetotal, and yeah, I didn't get drunk on New Year's Eve, and I felt great the next day. What about other people? That's how it always starts. It's a slippery slope. Yeah, and I heard somebody say, and I love this saying on my last live, saying, don't let a slip be a slide. So, like, just because we're on a slippery slope doesn't mean we've got to go down. Like, we can always sit there and think, okay, how bad do I want this to get? Because it is a slippery slope and it will get worse and worse and worse. And sometimes we need to get to a certain point where, like, sometimes we need a level of worse before we can stop. But yeah, just thinking about, like, this is only going to get worse. Like, it doesn't get better. So what one little thing can I do to kind of turn that around, so I'm not going downward, I'm going upward? And it, like I say, it doesn't need to be stopping the addiction. If you're not at that place, that's fine. We can just start making steps towards somebody who will want to stop the addiction. Because you can say, right now I don't feel like I want to stop, but I want to be the person who wants to stop. So, or maybe I can't stop, but I want to be a person who's able to stop. So what can I do to get to that point? GE saying I get my kicks out of fixing stuff like ATVs and cars, etc., instead of doing drinking and drugs. Yeah, one of the things I started doing when I stopped my addiction, I did many things. I started just like filling my life with stuff that I didn't do before my addiction, because I thought I need to fill the gaps. Like I used to spend all my life getting wrecked, and the rest of it was just noise waiting until I got wrecked. So I had this huge hole in my life, and I had to start filling it with stuff, and I started filling it with productive things. So one of the things I started doing was just working on my house. So just every day I did some new thing around my house, like DIY. I didn't know how to do DIY. I just went on YouTube and just started doing stuff, just changing things which were broken. Because this is the thing as well. Often when we're stuck in addiction, we let everything slide. So one of my friends has quit an addiction recently, and she started just like reorganizing her house and chucking things out, and it's making her feel really good. So yeah, you can fix things. Like if you're into fixing cars, great, but even just start fixing your space, making your space like a nice place to live, just doing things that feel positive. Matt said, wow, just found you. Hello, welcome to the channel. If you've got any questions around addiction or mental health, Matt or anybody else, I'm a therapist, so happy to answer them. GARD/PTSD is my diagnosis. I've been in hell. Yeah, I've had PTSD, and I've definitely dealt with anxiety in my time, that is for sure. It's not for faint-hearted. How are you getting along with that, GE? Are you getting the right support? Right. Thanks, Tico, for holding the fort. I've just seen your comment. Tico's me brilliant mod. Stephen was saying, so what was your addiction? It was ketamine. But look, let's be real. I was just off my face on alcohol and drugs, anything and everything, every single day of my 20s and early 30s. I honestly can't remember a day that I was sober. I think there was points around doing when that's a lie. When I was doing like, when I had an assignment due, because I was just constantly wrecked. But if I had an assignment due for a week or two around that, I wouldn't be wrecked, and I would move into my dad's so that I couldn't get wrecked. But I was still having a glass of wine, to be fair, at the end of it. Yeah, I honestly can't remember a time I was sober before getting sober. So I get your channel, I respect it, but CK on offer. Oh God. Thanks, Craig. I think as somebody who used to fucking be a kethead, I feel like CK, no, thank you, please. Ola from Hawaii. Hello to Hawaii. Right. Holy Rhino, all you need is God. I lived 19 years in prison. Fucking hell, that is a shift. Pay child support off and don't even know my daughter. Just remember, when you're down, there's always someone in a worse position in your life than you. Thanks, Holy, for sharing that. Yeah, do you know what it is? Like, how's everything now? Because it sounds like you're saying all you need is God. It sounds like you've turned your life around. And the thing is, do you know what it is? There is, go to an AA or an NA meeting, and honestly, you will sit there and realise, actually, I know I thought this was bad, but there will be someone worse in that room, I guarantee it. There is always somebody who's been at worse, who's pulled themselves out of it, and we absolutely can. Like, I have, but there's people who've been in a much worse situation and has pulled themselves out of it. Look at what Holy Rhino is saying. Right, let's see what else. Idle hands can be dangerous. 808 saying, keep busy, live, aloha. Idle hands can be so dangerous, especially in recovery, because if we're bored, like, let's be real, it's not just, we've got reasons which have led us to addiction, and that's often rooted in childhood or trauma, maybe undiagnosed mental health disorders, maybe both. But there's things that keep us in addiction, and that is boredom, idle hands. So start doing things in your life which are fun, and if you don't know where to start, think back to when you were a kid. What did you used to enjoy doing when you were younger? Or maybe think about, okay, what's my job like? Do you enjoy your job? If not, what would your dream career be? And start learning things about it. Just start doing like little mini course. There's so much stuff online. Or maybe it's about, I've always wanted to do this one thing. Go do the thing. Just, when you're in addiction, like, life is pretty shit, and if you can go through that, you can do the thing, whatever it is that you're putting off. So, or if you don't know, try a bunch of things. Try going to do martial arts. Try, I don't know, go learning to do comedy. Go meet up. Just do something. Fill your time. How's Britain these days? Asking from California. Oh God, I think it's safe to say things are a bit crazy. Well, I've just saw this same thing we're all mad here. I think that sums it up. Things are getting crazy over in UK, but I try not to follow what's going on in it. I just find it not good for me mental health, so I don't follow the news. Can addiction be a result of being introduced to sex at an early age? Absolutely, hugely, could hugely impact it. There's something called ACEs that I talk about on all the thing with adverse childhood experiences, and when we have childhoods which are just, when we have childhoods which are difficult and have adversities in it, it means you've got a higher likelihood of going to addiction. So it's not so if you do this test online, for people who score 4 or higher, you're 40 to 70%, depending on the research, but up to 70% more likely to have an addiction than somebody who scores less ACEs, like 0 ACEs. So yeah, absolutely. A therapist, what's your take on the parasocial phenomena with streamers and furthermore with VTubers? What do you mean by that? I don't even know what you're talking about, so I don't want to comment on it. But if you can give us a bit more detail. GE, I had a trauma with a bleeding in my throat. I lost so much blood it almost killed me. God. Yeah, I'd imagine no wonders why you've got PTSD, GE. And this is the thing, PTSD is a response to trauma. Like, we're not supposed to experience huge traumas like that. Are you getting support for it, GE? I know a really good therapist. If anyone's got PTSD, I know an amazing, she's private, but I had PTSD from sexual abuse that I experienced. And I did a lot of different therapies for it, and I was still having PTSD, and I worked with this therapist, and she was amazing. So I can put you in touch with her. Holy Rhino, therapy for grown-ups stuck in child mode. Yeah, do you know what it is? We're all big kids. We look at children and, we give children a lot of grace for having big emotions, and especially in this day and age, like my son kicks off, I'm like, are you hungry? Oh, he's just a bit overstimulated, he's just done a bit too much today. We're just big kids. We're just kids who've grown up. Our bodies are bigger, our minds are slightly older, but we're just big kids. And we're not getting the same grace that we give our own kids. Yeah, that is the top and bottom of it. And we just need to give ourselves a bit of grace for being a kid. We're just a big kid who's got a few more years under the belt and a few more traumas under the belt. I think that's the main difference. We've had more time to get traumatized than what my 4-year-old has. The trauma from when I collapsed scared the shit out of me. That's what started my GAD, says GA. So talking about GAD, so for those who don't know, that's generalized anxiety disorder. And if we're looking at anxiety, so taking the PTSD aside, because that's something separate. But if anyone's struggling with anxiety, we need to think about it like we've got 2 alarms in alarm systems going off every time we get anxious. And what happens is when we're used to being in anxiety, like Anxiety is fight or flight. And if we've got like repetitive anxiety, like generalized anxiety disorder, or you just relate to having an anxiety all the time, being an anxious person, what that means is our fight or flight response is being fired up more times than it should. So what we need to think about is, okay, our brain and body is now wired up just to go off. The alarm bell is short circuiting, it's going off all the time. So what we need to do is we need to think, okay, how do we train it to not fire off all the time? A lot of the time in therapy, and I'm a therapist, I hold my hands up, this is what I used to focus on, and I was missing a key piece of it. But what a lot of therapies do is focus on your mind. And that's absolutely important, because one of the alarm bells is in our brains, and that is our amygdala, and we release noradrenaline. So that's one alarm bell. So we do need to focus on our mind, but we also need to focus on our body, which is the second alarm bell. And that is your adrenal glands, and that's where adrenaline comes from. So if we think about these two alarm bells, you need to cut them both off to deal with anxiety in the moment. And the more you practice this, the more you'll start to calm your nervous system down so that it's not firing off all the time. Because our bodies just do things habitually. So if you retrain your body and retrain your mind, it'll start to make calm its new baseline. So how do we do this? We inhibit the brain. So that's just stopping our thoughts, breathing, and saying, okay, we're going to just calm our bodies and our brain down. We will think about this when we're calm. So first thing is, whatever we're thinking about, pause it, hit the pause button. Then think about your body. So take some deep breaths and relax your shoulders, open out your posture, chill out, relax your jaw, just calm yourself down, regulate your nervous system, and that'll stop you from producing adrenaline. Next, it's our brain. So just think, right, okay, let's think about this rationally, because when we're experiencing anxiety, that's our limbic system, and what we need to activate is our prefrontal cortex, which is rational thinking. So okay, let's think about this rationally. Is being anxious right now helpful? Probably not, because anxiety is realistically only helpful if we need to fight something or we need to flight from something. So if you don't need to run away and you don't need to fight someone, it's probably not helpful. So first of all, have that conversation with yourself. This isn't helpful. Calm down, and then think about, okay, am I going to pause it and think about it later, or am I going to strategically think about what's ever making us anxious now? And am I going to do it in a way that has a start and an end and has a plan of action, not just sitting there ruminating in thoughts? And the more you practice that, guys, the more you practice turning off both the alarm systems, the more calm you'll become and the less anxious of a person you will be. Obviously, deal with traumas and stuff with a therapist as well. Right, okay. I've been sober for 19 months. It's just boring, not hard, very boring. I really get that, Raz. What you're doing in your life that's not boring? If your life's really boring, like, is it that did you just remove the addiction for 19 months and not replace it with anything? Because if we've got a boring life, is it that you've not got things which light you up going on in your life? And if you want to hash this out through one-to-one, Tico's put my website on. I'll absolutely do that with you, because the thing is, if we feel like our life is boring when we're in addiction recovery, it's going to be really hard to sustain it, because nobody wants to be living a boring life. And let's be real, it can't be, at least you don't feel bored when you're doing that. So it's about creating a life which is full. It's not just about not being an addict anymore. Let's see, 808. I've been caged up for 5 years. Stubbornness kept me on the exact drug path. It took my daughter being born to change my ways. Still struggling, but 4 years clean. I love that for you, that you're 4 years clean. Yeah, When you say you're struggling, in what way do you mean you're still struggling? Do you mean like with mental health, or is it similar to what whoever said before about feeling bored? Like, what are you struggling with? Okay, I'm sorry for that. GE, what you sorry for? You've got nothing to be sorry for. We don't need to be sorry, guys. But yeah, I don't know what you're sorry about. Let us know. What if somebody has an identity crisis? Benny, yeah, this is, I think, look, anyone coming out of addiction's probably dealing with a bit of an identity crisis, because your whole identity is your external world and how you think and behave in it. So what you think about yourself in your external world, how you behave, and your environment. So if we remove addiction, we do naturally go into an identity crisis, addiction recovery. And it's about thinking, okay, what do I want my new identity to look like? It's okay to say that I'm going to be a new person. It's okay to be a new person, but thinking about, okay, what does that new person look like? What are they doing in their day-to-day life? How do they interact with people? How do they talk to themselves? What hobbies and interests they have? Like, try and think of it like an abstract thing in the future. Try and you can journal, you can do like a little, I don't know, a little mood board with a stick man in it and write things around it. But think about, what is that identity, the best identity that I could hope for myself look like, and then make little steps, little incremental steps toward that. So yeah, I think it's very normal to have an identity crisis, but that can be a good thing, because it means, okay, I get to change who I am and change into a person that I enjoy being. And yeah, I do have ADHD, Benny. Good spot. Right, Mister, if you stop yapping and get your bangers out, the views will shoot up. I'm not here for views, I'm here to support people. Finding what keeps the boredom away. Oh, hello, Chris. How are you doing? Finding what keeps the boredom away is important, like Ashley's saying. If you don't have that, please start searching. Yeah, just start searching for something that you don't feel bored doing. Find, and not just one thing, lots of little things. Just try doing new things. And being present, this is a big part of it as well. Going through the motions, it's going to feel boring. So try and learn mindfulness. Sounds really lame, really woo-woo, but it's not. There's a lot of research around why mindfulness is really good for you, and especially with addiction recovery as well, and mental health. But that's about like being present, like just stopping and actually looking around at what's going on and trying to like smile and enjoy it. Smiling's a really big thing as well, like stopping and smiling when you're doing something. It produces endorphins, oxytocin. It's Tico says, liking the live keeps this space visible to people who are looking for support. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Tico. GE, rave trance music makes me feel better and it kicks away those warning bells. Yeah, music. I fucking love music. Music is my go-to. If I'm feeling shit, I get music on. I love little kitchen dance parties as well. Replacing pride with wisdom, Chris is saying. Pride leads to destruction, wisdom leads to life and purpose. Yeah, one of the things that we have to accept, if we're gonna get out of addiction, sometimes it is about, okay, leave the pride at the door. I was talking about this today. So basically, when I had to, my turning point for my addiction, I've never been so fucking humbled in my entire life. It was demoralizing. But I basically told people that had an addiction. I then I said I wanted to do drugs tests, so that's something we can keep ourselves accountable in different ways by telling people. For me, I asked my family if I could do drugs tests every 3 days, just for the beginning stage. Pissing into a cup and doing a drugs test on FaceTime toward my dad, in front of my dad. Pride was left at the door. But that was the turning point of my life. And alongside the embarrassing, humiliating stuff, I was making steps toward cultivating a life that was mint. So yeah, pride at the door, please, and just start, getting wisdom. Thinking about, okay, how can I do this strategically? How many years recovery do you have? Nearly 4. I'm coming up to 4 years. No. Having a vision of the new you is a great shout. Yeah, it is. Sometimes we're just one day at a time in addiction recovery, which is helpful because we don't want to be overwhelmed. But I think also it's good to have a goal and then to make steps toward it. So to build on that idea of having a vision of what you want to look like in the future, what is future you, recovered you look like and doing and feeling and behaving like. So that can be, give that a number, that's number 10. And then think about what number would I give myself today in relation to where I want to be. So if that's 10, what number am I now? Maybe it's a 3, maybe it's a 5, maybe it's a 1. But give yourself a number and then think about, okay, what one thing can I do starting a day to get us from, we'll go with 3, from a 3 to a 4. And try and make it fun. Try and make it something enjoyable, so it's not just all doom and gloom, like something positive that is toward that version of me that I want to be. And then when you've got to number 3 and you've been turn that into a habit, so you've been repeating it daily, layer on top of that. So what's the next habit that I'm going to create, which is going to take us from a 3 to a 4 and from a 4 to a 5, and just build your way up. Nivek is saying, don't look for happiness in the same place you lost it. Yeah, don't. And it's that saying, isn't it? Keep trying to do the same. Madness. The definition of madness is trying to do the same thing and expecting different results. It's the same thing, if you're not happy in life, in your addiction, don't think, okay, what do I need to do differently? Like, where else do I need to go? Because where I'm at now in life, I'm not finding joy and happiness. So even going back to the person who said they're bored in life. Well, if you're bored in your life now, try and make it a different life. What can you do in it that's going to be different? That's not going to be fucking boring the life out of you. There isn't going to be a relapse. There isn't going to be something like a relapse trigger, because boredom is a trigger. So you need to think about, how am I not going to be bored? Perrier, I don't know how you say that. Hi, do you read Mathematical Intertemporal Destiny, Astral Beauty is True Soul Wisdom? I couldn't even read that sentence, let alone claim to have read what it is. So no, is the answer to that. What's it about? GE is saying, I want to donate, but your stream doesn't have that function. Oh, that's very sweet. No, I haven't bothered doing anything like that, to be honest with you. What would be really helpful is if people could just give us a subscribe. Ideally, I just get paid from YouTube, and I'm just helping people out for free. But that's very kind of you, GE. Milcan, you're a good lass. Thank you. Somebody else is saying I'm crazy. Oh, legit. Legit. On paper, diagnosis to the eyeballs, riddled with craziness. I still twerk for perk 30s, Bob. Twerking is your jam. I don't know if you've been sarky, but if you do anything you can to bring a bit of fun, I love a good dance. Oh God. Has anyone ever been addicted to you? Bulletproof. I don't think so. I don't think so. As a man, it's crippling trying to cope with anxiety over the years. Benny's saying, it's gotten so much worse, but I'm trying to live with integrity so I can trust myself. Maybe part of that anxiety is having doubt. Benny, if you want a one-to-one, we can hash out some practical things that you can do for anxiety. But if you think of it like your body has learned to be in a state of anxiety, and it's learned it through experience, and that the reason why I say that is that you can unlearn how to live life anxiously. It might be that you've got a lot of triggers in your life. So you've got loads of anxiety inducing people and situations in your life. So it might be making physical changes, but there's certainly going to be internal changes that you can do. And as somebody who used to be riddled with anxiety and just apologizing to the world for existing, that is not the life I live now. So you can do it, but it's day in, day out change toward that. And I absolutely can sit down and do a free one-to-one with some practical steps to get you started. Someone said hi from Tennessee. I don't know what that noise was I just made. Hi from Newcastle. Hey, so you have a rehabilitation centre? No, I don't. I do not. But I am starting an addiction group on Monday. I'm a therapist, addictions counsellor. I'm also a therapist. I specialise in childhood trauma. But I've got an addictions group starting in a week or so when my son goes back to school, and I'm doing free one-to-ones, so free addiction group, free one-to-one. But I don't have a rehabilitation centre, no. Who knows? Maybe one day. Skino, how will I deal with childhood trauma? That's a big question. Again, I'm happy to do a one-to-one with you on to get you in the right place with the right people. As somebody who's dealt with trauma that I had in my childhood, there's not one thing that you can do to fix it. I've went to multiple different therapies. I've done a lot of stuff. So I am a therapist, and what I do is try and do something positive every day. So I have this deal with myself. It started off as a 21-day kindness pact to myself, where every day I was just going to be kind to myself. So I started off like that, and along the way I've went to different therapies and done different things to help myself. But I think the main thing to deal with childhood trauma is to, one, work with professionals, and two, is learn to calm your nervous system and think about, okay, what impacts has my childhood trauma had on how I show up today? Because it leaves imprints on how we behave and how we interact with people. It impacts our relationship with ourselves and with others. So think about, okay, how is it showing up in my life today, and how can I start to make changes with that? So we deal with the trauma with therapists and with specialists, but we deal with the everyday stuff every day. Just every day doing something toward positive self-talk, or learning healthier coping mechanisms, learning how to love myself, how to relate to people better. So if we've had childhood trauma, Skino, and anybody who has, a big thing is probably attachment. I would say that's a good place to start. So there's an amazing book called Attached, and it's got a quiz in the beginning. But if you don't want to read a book, I can send you an attachment quiz. Just go on my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk, and say attachment quiz, and work out what your attachment style is. And you'll often find people with childhood trauma will be an insecure attachment. And the great thing is you can learn how to be a secure attachment. That's what I've done. So again, that's something, it's working out, okay, what can I change? So what needs to be changed, and then what steps can I take to change it? And we're living in a digital age. There is so much information at our fingertips. People with addictions are more susceptible to people pleasing. Not all. The people that I deal with tend to be more susceptible to people pleasing. I think addiction I think people tend to be people pleasers before going into addiction. But then addiction, so it's like people pleasing nature. But then addiction makes us really internal. So a lot of the time people mistake people with addiction for narcissists. So they might be like, oh, they're so selfish, or they're narcissistic. They're not. They're just very internal. You know, we're just thinking about the addiction. We're struggling and we're very internal, and it's all about, how can I get the next addiction? I don't want to be an addict. And it's all revolving around that. But generally, what I've found is a large percentage of people that I've worked with, so this is my experience, struggle with people pleasing. And I'd say a large percentage of my clients, like for therapy, have struggled with people pleasing. So it's not everyone, but it is common. Benny's saying, oh yeah, I was there with the board. It's dangerous. This leads to relapse, money splurging, depression. Yeah, boredom is dangerous. Boredom's dangerous for anyone. And it's, I think the key as well is like just do it, finding things that light you up and learning to be present and grateful in those moments. So like learning to, it's not just about doing things, it's about really like starting to learn to stop and smell the roses, and you know, just being like really grateful for the relationships we've got and the things that we're doing that brings us joy, but making sure we've got great relationships and things that bring us joy. Benny's saying, you know, I used to think addiction was drugs only, but I learned it can mean many different things too. Yeah, it can. It absolutely can. I think the majority of people struggle with addiction. A majority, I mean, phone, like that sort of doom scrolling, huge. It's one I've had to tackle, and it's one that I keep slipping up on and then having to go back and stop again. And, it, you know, everybody's struggle. You can have loads of different addictions. Addiction is just escaping from something, and it's when it becomes problematic in life. Did you ever do ketamine? I'm sober for 4 months, but urges are still insane. Zoran, I was addicted to ketamine. That was my drug of choice. And if you're wanting to have a one-to-one, I can certainly go through it. But yeah, urges are still going to be insane around, I'd say, usually after 3 months it starts to change, but it's different for every person. Hopefully they will start to taper down, but I can certainly do a one-to-one to help you along that process. Absolutely. Also think about like, if your urges are still really high, if you've got a lot of triggers in your life, are you living in a very stressful life? Are you around people who take ketamine? Have you got things that bring you joy in your life? Or is it just you've removed ketamine and now you're just doing nothing because the urges are going to be really strong in that case? But this will be easier to do one-to-one to get to the heart of it and get some strategies in place, which I'll absolutely happy to do with you. I've been sober, so how do I say, you're getting cold. I've been sober for almost 20 years. On January 26th, it will be 20. That is some friggin' shift. What's your top tip that you'd say for anyone who's listening, who's struggling? And how did you get through that earlier stages? We've got somebody who's saying that they're 4 months sober, right? What would you say to that person who's in them earlier stages where it starts to feel like a slog and you're like, I don't know if I could sustain this? Terry's saying he loves my accent, thank you. Hi from Charlotte, NC. Hello from Newcastle, north of England. Finding Jesus will help you with addiction. I'm very spiritual. I've got to say it did help us, but I always do say this, it's maybe just about connecting to something bigger than yourself. So getting out in nature, I know it sounds so lame, but like actually stopping and looking around nature, so helpful. I had somebody who was a recovering alcoholic, and they were said to us, like, why is it that every person who was an addict now just loves nature and spiritual, and not spiritual or love God? And it's like, but it is just like getting out in nature is so good for you. And maybe just like reconnecting to humanity. Like I say, addiction makes us so internal. We're just so in our head, and then in our own little universe just feels very small. And it's about widening it out. And nature and just connecting to other people can be helpful. Don't live for yourself and live for others. LLC. And what do you mean by that? I think a nice balance is, it's not always about me, but it's not never about me. So live for yourself and others. Like, you have to live for yourself to be able to show up for others. If you're not focusing on doing things for yourself and filling your own cup up and bigging yourself up and living your best life, then realistically you're not going to be able to be there for other people. So we have to be a bit selfish so that we can be the best versions of ourselves for others, so that we can live for others, I would say. Paul is saying, what is the best type of therapy? It depends. The thing is, there's so many different types of therapy. The truth of it is, because not one shoe fits all. So CBT might be great for one person, and for some other person they might be like, that's fucking shit. I think the best type of therapy is going to come from a therapist that you resonate with. So it's really important, the therapist that you've got good rapport with them. So think about it when you're at school. You know, when you had that teacher that was mint and they were funny and they knew how to command the room, and then you just like, you went in, you looked forward to it, and it wasn't particularly the subject but rather how they delivered the subject. So I think the therapist is more important than the type of therapy. And don't be afraid to switch therapists until you get one that you gel with. But yeah, I would say that it's really important for most people, I would say, to do two types of therapy. One which focuses on like somatic therapy, so learning, you know, calming the nervous system, and that you could maybe learn by yourself. But you learning therapeutic techniques. And the other type I would say is childhood. The majority of things go back to childhood. So that is a type of therapy that allows you to explore that, either person-centered or psychotherapy, some kind of psychotherapy, I would say, because the majority of stuff stems from childhood. I would have to say, in my experience, about 98% of stuff stem from childhood. Mohammed is saying humans are more stronger than addiction. We absolutely are. But sometimes we need to accept as well that what humans are supposed to be tribe creatures. So leaning on other humans who've been through it can be really helpful. And if you're struggling, maybe it's because you're doing it by yourself. So that's where groups can be helpful. Stuff like this can be helpful. Tico saying, welcome everyone who's joining. This is a supportive, judgment-free space built on shared experiences. You're welcome to listen, reflect or share if and when it feels right to you. Absolutely. Thanks, Tico. Zaran, some people do drugs and live until 90. Some live healthy and exercise but get a heart attack at 30. Yeah, you just don't know which one you're going to be. What I will say is that a significant factor in longevity is what is your stress. I'd say there's a few things which research shows impacts longevity, and that is stress. So we all need to learn how to manage our stress, and also sleep, what we eat, and connection and activity. 6 things. So yeah, all people who try to get off the drugs, we should meet up and go for a long hike and camp across the country. I'd love that. I would love to organise that. If that's something you're willing to put the work in, if you're wanting to do, I would be happy to do that. Yeah. If someone has got organisation skills and is up for doing that, if that's something that people want to do, go on my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk, and let us know. I'm just not the most organised of chaps, that's the only thing. Just me. Forgiveness, understanding that there's nothing we can do to make the past any different. If that is something people want to do as well, I'll do like a little retreat. We can do some things, and we can have like a little, I don't know, weekend of getting some tips and tricks under our belt. Let us know. Right, Shine Makes Noise. Really enjoyed watching you live today. The vibe was calm and positive throughout. Everything felt natural and honest. Looking forward to your next live. Thank you, Shine Makes Noise. I go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. GMT time. I'd love to have you there. Thank you. Asmandos. I've been sober for 12 years. What is your top tip for people who are struggling? Because that is a lot. That is 3 times longer than I've done it. So yeah, absolute recovery veteran in the joint. You guys actually have very soft life. That's you do drugs. I don't know what that means, Mohammed. Can addiction be cured or just redirected into something more healthy? It's a bit of a... I want to take a little second to answer this properly because it's a bit layered, a bit nuanced. So essentially what we're addicted to, whatever it is that we have an addiction to, it's dopamine. So we're all addicted, no matter what it is, heroin, gambling, doom scrolling, it's dopamine that we're addicted to. And we're not really addicted to dopamine. So dopamine is just the chemical which drives us towards pleasurable things, and it's inherent, like it's integral to life. Like we couldn't live without dopamine. There was in fact a study with rats, which I've mentioned a few times, so sorry for those who come on my channel often, but they removed the dopamine receptors and they put food in front of the rats and they starved to death because they had no motivation to get the food. So we're all addicted to things. The thing is, the way that our brains are designed isn't for the 21st century. So the things that we're addicted to are making us produce excessive amounts of dopamine. So we're not supposed to be flooded with mass amounts of dopamine that cocaine makes us produce, or gambling makes us produce, or social media makes us produce. So we're all addicted. It is about changing to healthier things. Because that's the way we're wired up, and part of it is accepting that. But the other side of that, and this is where it gets nuanced, is when we're flooding our brains with dopamine, with whatever our addiction is, it actually messes with our brains. So our dopamine receptors try to counteract the amount of dopamine we're producing because of the thing we're addicted to, and it actually down-regulates the amount of dopamine. So we have to reset our brains and then redirect it into something more positive. So yeah, it's even more complicated than that, to be honest with you. But yeah, that's how, in a nutshell. I'm going to scroll to the bottom and see what people are saying. Shazman saying, I relapsed on New Year's Eve. Somebody said it was on the New Year's Eve, was it New Year's Eve? Yeah, the New Year's Eve live I did, don't let a slip be a slide, and I said I'm going to be stealing that. Just because you've relapsed doesn't mean it needs to be a complete write-off, Shazman. So I know you're annoyed at yourself, but what I did with me, so I've had, we call it lapse. So there's a lapse where you just fall off the wagon, it's a blip, or we've got full-on relapse where we decide, do you know what it is? Screw it. I've fell off the wagon and I'm going to stay down. I'm not going to pick myself back up again. And what I did, which was helpful, is I allowed myself to keep my original start date. So if I relapse, I said, right, you've got a tough decision to make here. You're at a crossroads. You either go back down addiction alley, or you can pick yourself up and say, right, that was a blip. What's the lesson? So for you, it's New Year's Eve is difficult. So next year, I'm going to better prepare, and I'm going to have another year under my belt, and I'm going to keep my start date. If you can pick yourself up now and carry on, you get to keep the original start date. And just don't berate yourself, because you cannot fight addiction, guys, if you're fighting yourself. So Shazman, I know that you're annoyed about yourself. If you want a one-to-one and we can sit there and think about how we're going to pick myself up again, then we can. And if you already have, amazing. But don't let this be an excuse to continue back into where you were. It doesn't have to be a full relapse. Paul is saying self-compassion and forgiving yourself is the most important. It really is. It really, really is. learning to give yourself grace is 100% the most important thing. And that's why a lot of this channel, I talk about why a lot of the focus is addiction isn't your fault. So I talk about the research of why it's not your fault, because you have to forgive yourself. You have to say, it's not my fault that I'm here. I've done my best. Addiction was the solution to whatever reason I'm taking it. Like, it was shit. Something shit's happened in my life. Maybe I've got an undiagnosed mental health disorder and I need to be compassionate to myself. Maybe I've done things that I'm not proud of, but I'm human and humans make mistakes. But I need to forgive myself and I need to be compassionate towards myself and I need to pick myself up and drive myself into a different direction. And you can't do that when you're beating yourself up, because that's just one way to take it back to addiction. Lord Hogg is saying, great stream tonight, Ashley. Thank you. I'm really tired, so I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm just really tired today. I think it's been a long slog, this crazy Christmas and New Year malark. But thank you, and I'll see you on Monday. Paul, are you familiar with Theo Von? I love Theo Von. Yes, I am familiar. He's just an example of a lush person, isn't he? Just a kind, lush person. He's overcame addiction as well. Early, Curly, I'm just going to call you Early. You have to take ownership. Yeah, we'll have to take ownership, as in we'll have to think about, okay, what am I going to do differently? Like, what steps am I going to take toward my recovery? But taking ownership isn't the same as beating yourself up. Beating yourself up and being cruel to yourself and calling yourself names for being an addict, saying like, I'm a shit person, I've done these shit things, like I'm so annoyed with myself, I'm such a failure, all these words that we tell ourselves, these are things that I've told myself. All these, like, beating yourself up isn't the same as taking ownership. That's just flogging yourself. That is kicking yourself while you're down. Taking ownership looks like, okay, I'm a human being, I've made mistakes, and you know what, Liz, it's understandable that I am where I am, but I get to choose different. And it's about empowering yourself and thinking about what one little thing can I do towards something different. Chris is saying, greetings from Scotland. Hello to Scotland. I've never met someone from Scotland that I haven't thought is mint. Theo Von is an absolute treasure. Yeah, he is. He's such a little cutie. He's so funny as well. Oh man, that blame is real, especially growing up as a Catholic. Yeah, it's no good for no one. Sitting there blaming yourself, it's no good for no one. It really isn't. And realistically, when you look at addiction, what you will realise, if you research why addiction occurs, you are not to blame. You are not, no one is to blame for the addiction. It is a result, it's a symptom, it's a way of self-medicating, something else that's going on, some deeper rooted issue. So yeah, but yeah, it's really, I know you're saying as a Catholic, look, being a Catholic, it's, you're growing up and like being Catholic is the blame game, but so is being a human being. You know, we're all taught to blame ourselves and to loathe ourselves realistically, aren't we? Especially in addiction. I mean, look at the way the stigma around addiction. It's really hard. So it's understandable we're blaming ourselves, but it's actually unnecessary, for one. It's not true. And it's also keeping us stuck. It's a disorder, maybe ADHD trigger too. Yeah, well, ADHD, you are 500 times more likely to have an addiction to drugs. That's just what statistics say about drugs, let alone alcohol and gambling and porn and all the other addictions, prostitutes, just everything, doom scrolling. You're more susceptible just because of the way your brain is wired up when you've got ADHD. Yeah, Benny, look into ADHD and addiction. Dr. K does an episode on it. He's a streamer on YouTube, if you haven't heard of him. He does an episode, he's a psychiatrist, and he talks about the links between addiction and ADHD. Chris, have not heard the word mint in a while. Well, come back to this channel, you'll hear it a few more times. Have distant Geordie cousins, brings back memories. Hey. Let's see what else people are saying. I'm getting a little bit tired. I came on tired. If anyone could give us a subscribe who hasn't as well, that is so free and helpful. But also just thanks to everybody who's liked the channel and who's commenting and just showing up. Is it possible to, so Faraz is saying, is it possible to eliminate addiction without replacing it? I have occasional thoughts to smoke a few cigarettes, even though I haven't smoked in a while. What do you mean by replacing it? Like doing something different? So one thing when I did my, do you mean like replacing it with something to distract yourself with is what I was going to say. But then I started thinking, so when I did my first degree in counselling, I did an addiction. So I specialised in addiction. And my addictions teacher said that one of the things with addiction is the ritual. So every addiction has a ritual to it. And what he said is he replaced his addiction with something else that's ritualistic. So for him, this is just what he did. I'll tell you mine after. But he switched his addiction up for making tea bags. He'd make his own tea. He'd make tea bags. So put the tea leaves in and do it. And it was the ritual of making the tea bag and then steeping the tea. That hurt. And then having a nice cuppa. So you can, if it's something that you need to do, like try and switch it up for a ritual. Because every addiction has a ritual to it. And he was so true. Like for me, even just something like with my ketamine, I would like crush the ket and make the line. It's all a ritual. I just put the whole pile out and it was just all little rituals and you don't say it like that. So if you can find something that you enjoy that's small, that's got a little ritual to it, you can say, right, I'm not going to do that, but I am going to do this other ritual. Chris has said subscribed, thank you. As I've been sober for 2 years, 4 months, but I've recently had a 10-year relationship end, so the challenge has become great. I living by myself. Glad to find the channel like this. Oh, I'm so sorry that that's happened. I'm not, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know that myself, when I dealt with a 10-year relationship breakdown, it's just again, it's like coming out of addiction, isn't it? It's like having to find your whole new identity again. Hopefully it already is a positive experience, but if not, it's something that you can work at to make a positive experience. I've got to say, I went from being absolutely flawed with fucking hell. I've been with someone for 10 years. Now all of a sudden I'm a single mom with a toddler. What is life? And it was not long after I quit my addiction as well, to then absolutely loving my life. So I hope that's a journey that you're already on. But also if you want to, Chris, I'm doing an addiction group starting very soon if you want to join in with that as well. Not because necessarily for the addiction side of things, but just to keep you motivated. Because it sounds like you're going through a really transitional time in life, and transitions can be triggers. Right, I'm going to do one more comment and then I'm going to end it there, guys. Let's see. Right, I'm going to go to the bottom. Codependency is also called people addiction, and it's hard sometimes. Yeah. Well, so addiction, you can see it through the lens of being, so codependency is around your attachment, your attachment style. Attachment style is great. Like every single person watching this, if you don't already know your attachment style, it is a great place to start. If you want something to look at your life, and if you're thinking, I need some help on how to mop my life up, how to improve it, check out your attachment style. I can send you a link, or you can buy, if anybody wants that, go on my website and just say attachment style or comment on one of my old videos, I'll get a notification. I can send you a link that's free, or you can buy a book called Attached. But yeah, if we look at codependency, I always think about we get attached to addiction in the same way we become codependent on addiction. I think it's very similar. And Gabor Mate alludes to this as well. Benny's saying, thanks for helping us. I know it's not easy, a lot of energy. I appreciate that. Yeah, it does zap my brain, I'm not gonna lie. That's why I could only do about an hour and I start lagging. My brain starts to fry. But I enjoy it, and I really enjoy coming on talking to you guys. So honestly, it's a two-way street. Are you drinking alcohol while telling us not to? No, I'm not telling nobody not to drink alcohol. That is not what I'm doing. If you want to drink alcohol, drink alcohol. I'm just supporting people who are struggling with addiction. But this, it looks like piss, actually. Doesn't taste that much better, not gonna lie. But it's Space Goods. That's a lie, it doesn't taste like piss. But it's a bit... My taste buds are adjusting, put it that way. But it's Space Goods. It's a hydration drink. So you get like a packet of it, and I just put a spoonful of it in water, because I do not drink nearly enough water. I don't know if other people who've got ADHD and are like this, but I just forget to drink water. I don't know why. I don't know how I'm survived to 36, to be honest. Like, honestly, thank God I'm not a plant. But yeah, water is life. I know. I don't know. I must be some kind of cactus, a cactus version of the human race. So I live off coffee, and I've started putting hydration, scoop of it into my drink. So no, it's not alcohol. LL saying, okay, gonna start drinking again after 10 years sober because he said it's okay, thanks lol. No, that's not what I'm saying. Right, guys, stop playing with this. No, you can't play with this. But yeah, I'm not here to tell people what to do and what not to do, because realistically, what I'm here to talk about is addiction, and addiction is a problem that you want to stop, that you can't stop. So I'm not here to sit there and say drink. Like, I don't think, for me, it's all benign. It's neither here nor there. But what isn't not here nor there, and I'm talking about like drugs, everything, what isn't here nor there is people who are struggling. That's very much there. And I'm here and there with you. I'm there with you. So yeah. Ginger shots are dynamite for a bit of a hit. Yeah, my boyfriend does ginger shots. He makes them himself. He keeps telling us that he's told us the recipe a couple of times, and I keep forgetting. But look, we've just been speaking about how I forget to go to the tap and pour myself a glass of water. So like doing ginger shots are just like not happening for me. So yeah. Anyways, it was lush speaking to you all. I'll be back again on Monday at 10 a.m. I go live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m, 9 p.m. GMT time. If I haven't seen your comment, or if someone's watching who wants a free one-to-one to get you in the right direction, or wants to join my addiction group starting soon, comment, go to my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk. I don't answer straight away, so give us a few days, but I will always get back to everyone. So thank you very much, and I'll see you all on Monday. Bye.